Hello everyone, welcome to our timeless oracle reading. Our oracle card for today belongs to the dream reading cards and it is entitled Love. Well, our human nature is that of to love. When we were born, we had that capacity or that potential to love. It's part of human nature to love. So love is part of our nature. That is why oftentimes when we are born, from the moment we are born, the secret of our survival is that of love. If people care for us, touch us, provide us of our nutrients, then we survive. I remember there is this discovery many years ago of children that when they are born and they are not being carried, like for example a child who is born and needs to stay within a certain mechanical ventilator, if they remain in the nursery after they are born, there is a need for them to be touched or to be carried in order for them to survive, in order for them to grow. So being loved allows us to grow. Being loved is essential for all of us. Love is sort of like, very much like the air that we breathe. We need it for our existence. Now, there are several ways of receiving love. For me, I think there are 3 ways of receiving love. The first is being able to be aware that you are loved by someone unknown, someone who is beyond our awareness, someone from which we came from. Oftentimes, this mystery has been a cause of sort of like argument between people, whether this mystery exists or whether this mystery does not exist. Some even, just to play it safe, decides not to bother about it. But I feel that these are just stages in life wherein whether you are in denial of the person of the existence of this source from which we all came from, or there is that acceptance and recognition of that presence, of that uniqueness, of that invisible source from which we came from. And there is that moment wherein we doubt and we are not sure, and so we decide not to think about it. Even when you believe that there is a divine, our relationship with the divine is something that we need to grow into. It's a learning process. It's a work in progress. So one important aspect of love is that love for the divine. The second aspect of love is love for ourselves. If the love for the divine is a work in progress, so it is with our love for ourselves. It's also a work in progress. And finally, there is this love for others. Even the love for others is a work in progress. Although it is by human nature, it is part of our nature to love. For one reason or another, learning to love is not immediately there, although we innately have that ability to love. Learning how to love is a journey. It's something that we need to learn and unlearn as we go through our life's journey. Now, sometimes, usually we start to learn how to love depending on the people who take care of us and love us at the earlier years of our existence. And just as they also learn how to love from other people who took care of them. And because it is a learning process, to love is a learning process. Sometimes we receive love not unconditionally, but in a less mature way. Because the people who took care of us, the people who loved us, might not have yet completely matured in their journey towards learning to love. And so sometimes we receive certain dynamics of loving that is somehow not yet complete. And somehow we need to work on that kind of dynamic also. So the ability to love sometimes is influenced with the kind of love that we have received in our growing years. But innately within us, we have that capacity to love. And we have that capacity to love in a mature way. The mature way of loving is what oftentimes is referred to as unconditional love. I feel whatever stage we are in right now in the journey towards learning how to love, the important thing is to be aware of the love that we are receiving from the divine. It's like learning from the source from which we came from. All of us are a product of the loving energy of the source from which we came from. The reason why we were created is because we were loved and we are continued to be loved. Whether we like it or not also, all of us, when the parents from which we came from, our parents, we in one way or another, at one point or another, whether it is a mature or an immature way of loving, there was love that created us. In one way or another, imperfect as that may be, we were also products of love. Even in that situation when we might say you couldn't find love when we were co-created by our biological parents, there is a third element which is usually unseen and unknown, which is the source from which we came from, the source from which our parents also came from. So it's very important for us. Sooner or later, it's a journey. It's a journeying process. If people doubt the existence of the divine, it is okay, because that is the stage that they need to undergo at this time. It's something that is very personal. When the right time comes, the touch of the divine comes to our consciousness, and we discover the presence of the divine in our life. Now, some people, because of the experiences that they had, sometimes doubt the divine. So there are people who do not believe in the existence of the source. It is okay. That is what they are in right now in their journey. We learn to accept that, and we learn to respect their space. We learn to respect the stage they are in. But it's a process. Sooner or later, when the right time comes, they too will realize the importance of the divine in their life. Now, for those of you who are watching this one, in one way or another, there's a reason for you to have watched this video. For those of you who doubt the presence of the divine, maybe this is that moment wherein your person is ready to finally accept the presence of the divine in your life. The ability to love grows towards perfection when we develop a loving relationship with the divine, because the divine is the source of all things, and he is also the source of love. And if the divine is the source of the knowledge that we receive in order to love, then we will learn how to love unconditionally. So for me, in my belief, is that for us to learn how to love unconditionally, the first step is learning to love the divine. And learning to love the divine is not an effort. All you have to do is to be aware of the good things that the divine gives to us each day. When you know that you are loved by the divine, when you learn to say thank you to the divine for the beautiful things that the divine gives us, and when we learn to see the beauty in the challenges that we encounter in our daily life, knowing that these challenges will allow us to grow, then we learn to see how it is to love unconditionally. To love unconditionally is to allow ourselves to be who we are. There comes a point in your relationship with the divine when you start to have what is written in Psalm 139. If you look at the Bible scriptures in the Old Testament and you look at Psalm 139, there was one part of it in that psalm that says, "You are before me, you are behind me." Somehow they're trying to somehow that part, "You are before me, you are behind me, you are with me." It's like a person finally discovering the presence of the divine in their life. When they discover the presence of the divine, they couldn't describe how it is. It's just that they become aware that the divine is there. And so when they try to describe it, they couldn't say, I cannot describe my awareness of your love. It's as if you are before me. It's as if you are behind me. It's as if you are all around me. It's as if you're inside me, and yet I couldn't pinpoint where you are. All I know is that you are here with me. There's another one when St. Augustine again also discovered how God really loved him. He said, "Late have I loved you, ancient and divine," something like that. And he said, "I was looking for you outside, and yet you are here." He says within, but yet it's like that. When the touch of the divine comes into your life, when you start to feel the love of the divine, you couldn't describe how it is, but you just know that the divine is. That is why when they say Yahweh, the expression is I am who am. It's, you just know that the divine is, and the divine is there, and you feel the love of the divine, and you cannot describe it. It's as if he is just there, and you couldn't put it into words. And when you have that kind of experience, your cup will start to overflow. When you are in that moment of becoming aware of the presence of the divine, sometimes Wayne Dyer described it as a quantum moment wherein you are just sure that the divine is there. That's one important thing. And that moment of being aware of the divine is enduring. You will not forget that moment. It is in detail. You are aware of everything that is happening. For example, if you are in a room, you will remember that in that room, the clock was ticking. In that room, there was this bookshelf on your left. You remember the details. And you remember the message. And you feel the love. You remember the love. Now the challenge for us with regards to loving the divine is to have that thankful spirituality. We start by saying thank you in whatever experiences that we have, and to be aware of those touches of the divine, which Wayne Dyer calls quantum moments. When we become to be aware of these touches of the divine, they multiply because you start to become sensitive to it, and sooner or later you long for it. And then you will learn how to love. Why? In these moments of this, what they call, Wayne Dyer would call quantum moment, which I call touches of the divine, these moments, you will feel the love of the divine, and you will know how it is to truly love unconditionally. To describe that kind of loving is when you are in that presence of the divine, whatever stage you are in your life, whether you have committed an offense to others, or whether you are hurting yourself because you are in a certain addiction or in a certain bad habit, and you don't know how to love yourself because your self-esteem is so low, and you don't feel that you are lovable. People also do not seem to love you the way you would wish they would. When you are in that presence of the divine, when the divine touches you, you realize that no matter who you are, the divine loves you. If society says you are committing sin, when you are before the presence of the divine, you will feel the divine doesn't judge you. The divine just loves you. And when you feel that kind of love, then you start to understand what unconditional love is. The divine just loves you no matter who you are, whether you are doing good, whether you are doing bad, whether you are the worst person in the whole wide world. It doesn't matter to the divine. The divine just loves you. And when you start to feel that love of the divine, it's a love that is so sweet that it makes you cry. And somehow, when that true love comes, then we start to learn to love ourselves. We learn to love ourselves in all our aspects, even those bad sides of ourselves. Like, for example, if we have a certain addiction or a certain bad habit, or we are in a bad relationship, when you start to feel the love of the divine, and you feel that the divine doesn't change in his love, he loves you whether other people might consider that what you are living right now is a sinful life. What society says with the divine will just love you unconditionally. When you realize that the divine loves you for who you truly are, you learn to love yourself also unconditionally. You learn to accept the good and bad sides of yourself, but at the same time, because you felt the love of the divine in your life, you want to live a better life. For me, that is very important aspect of, if I would like to describe the touches of the divine. When you are before the divine, you will feel loved no matter who you are, no matter what you are doing, whether you're doing good or you're doing bad. You will just feel that unconditional love. And when you feel that unconditional love, the immediate response that you will have is, I want to love the divine also, as much as unconditionally as I could, as he does love me. When the divine loves you unconditionally, your desire is to love unconditionally in return. That is why oftentimes when we look at the scriptures, the way they describe a person healed by Jesus, when they are being healed, their response is to try to live a better life. And oftentimes Jesus would tell them, sin no more, start anew, live life again. I feel when you receive that unconditional love from the divine, your automatic response is to try to love him unconditionally. And then we learn to love ourselves also unconditionally. We accept ourselves for who we truly are. When we are before the light, you get to see the black spots that we have, those parts in our life that needs to be changed or to be let go and needs to be transformed. We get to see them, and we desire to work on them so that we can be better and to be able to love the divine better. So in a certain sense, when we start to become aware that the divine loves us unconditionally, we also want to love the divine unconditionally And the first step to love the divine unconditionally is to nurture ourselves, to work on ourselves, to make ourselves a better person. And that response to make ourselves a better person is the beginning of learning to love ourselves unconditionally. We learn to accept our weaknesses. We learn to recognize these weaknesses. And we recognize this as part of us. And from that point, we have that resolve. I resolve to begin again. I resolve to be a better person from now on, because I have experienced the unconditional love of the divine. And so we move forward, learning to love ourselves. So we undergo transformation. And when you undergo transformation, you start to heal the traumas of the past. You start to heal yourself. And you learn to love yourself. After learning to love ourselves, which is the result of the love we felt from the divine, then our cup starts to overflow, and we learn to love others. And we learn to love others unconditionally also. If the divine loved us in spite of ourselves, and we learn to love ourselves in spite of ourselves, when we learn to love ourselves with all our dark and light sides, then we learn to be less judgmental of others too. We allow them to be who they are and to be where they are in their present state of life. And also we do not become any more dependent on others to fill up our cup. When that happens, people feel we learn to love them in an unconditional way. We learn to let them go, to have that freedom, because you feel also that the divine also is not demanding on us. The divine just loves us, and whether we go to him or leave the divine behind, the divine continues to love us. We also on ourselves, when we start to see our dark and bright sides, we tend to become less judgmental of others. We allow others to be who they are at this present moment, and we love them for what they are. We love them in all their colors, their good and their bad sides. We know that if the divine has been patient with us, and we have been patient with ourselves, we learn to be patient with others. And when we become to be like that, we become inclusive rather than rejecting to other people. We become inclusive, and people start to feel it, and people start to be drawn to us. We learn to love them in a way wherein we do not become possessive of them. The reason why we are not possessive of them is because it is not them who is filling up our cup, but it is our loving relationship with the divine that fills up our cup. And we are a cup that is already overflowing. When you start to feel the love of the divine, your cup will overflow, that you feel like your heart is exploding, that you like to share the love that you are feeling. And so when you reach out to others, you reach out to them to share the joy, to share the love that you are feeling. You do not reach out to them because you want them to fill up your cup, because your cup is already overflowing. You just want to share. You just want them to share in your joy. You just want them to share in your love. And because you have that kind of energy, you are not possessive. You allow them to come and go. And when you become like that, they also learn how it is to love unconditionally. And they are drawn towards you. And you don't have to worry anymore. You just love. And if they come and go, no problem. You don't need other people to fill up your cup. But if they come into your life, you love them, and you try to love them unconditionally. And so the process continues. We learn how to love the divine. The divine teaches us how to love. We learn to love ourselves. And then we learn to love others. And others are drawn towards us. And they are drawn towards us because there is that certain mystery. They couldn't understand, why is this person so loving, so happy? In spite of the challenges they are undergoing in life, you become a mystery, a question mark to other people. And then they are drawn to you. And because you are a person who is a flame, people who are drawn to you will sooner or later be set aflame also. And sooner or later, their life will change, and the process continue. They pass on the flame to others. So this is what I could think of love. I feel for us to learn to love is first to be aware that you are loved and that you are not alone. And no matter what stage you are in your life, you are loved unconditionally. And when we do that, we start that with that awareness of the love of the divine, we will start to undergo that process towards mature love, towards that love we call unconditional love. Now let us go to the handbook that accompanies this card so that we can gain more insights regarding how it is to love. So in the card it is said, love, your relationship with yourself and others needs reassessing. Open up to love others by unblocking negativity. Embrace love without fear. Make it unconditional. So we go now to the handbook, and the handbook has this message. Love. Love rests on no foundation. It is an endless ocean with no beginning or end. Love is the water of life. There is no greater emotion than love. You, like all of us, are born to fulfill your soul's purpose, to love. The more you are open to love, the more love can surge through your soul and manifest in the world. You are the beloved of the Creator. You were born out of love. Believe it. Ask yourself if you have complete and unconditional love for yourself. Respect your own sacred spirit and have compassion for your own human frailties. It begins with you. Others will feel your love and return that love. It will then create a chain reaction. Love is asking you to participate in its joyous dance. Do not keep your heart locked away in fear of getting hurt. Take a risk in love. At a universal level, you are being reminded to live in compassionate love. Approach every situation from the view of love. Every word, every deed, and every thought that comes from a place of love will create a huge difference in people's lives and raise human consciousness. Embrace your passion right now, whatever or whoever that is for you. Ask for love to come to you. If your heart is open, the lover you seek will be free to enter. If your heart is shackled with bitterness, fear, regrets, and negativity, the entrance will be blocked. Love deeply. Open your heart. Speak with love. Walk with love. Be an example of love. Well, that's it for today. It's a little bit longer, but yeah, love is something that is so profound that it's like a spring that overflows. We couldn't stop but talk about love. Love is so beautiful. Now, I hope that this has been fruitful for you, and I hope it has given you the insight and the inspiration to love. And thank you for the likes and comments you've given to the channel. Thank you for subscribing. It allows the channel to grow, and it allows the channel to reach more people. I hope to see you again soon. Until that time, May God continue to bless your ways.